Paying without cash is fast becoming the norm.
I pay even tiny amounts with my card.
It's just easier.
It's becoming easier and easier.
Will cash soon be a thing of the past?
When I think about it, I pay more without cash than with.
We cannot use cash money in Sweden anymore.
Around the world, financial corporations, politicians and leading economists are working to do away with cash.
I'd see a future where you will be able to hold digital euro, digital dollars directly at the central bank.
Cash doesn't have anybody to advocate for it because it's like a public utility. So you have on the one side these highly motivated commercial entities, and on the other hand you have cash who doesn't have anybody who, everybody uses it, but it doesn't have an official spokesperson, or it doesn't have a marketing department. So it's a kind of an unfair battle. The best analogy to understand this is to think about cars versus bicycles. If you're living in a world where there's only bicycles, actually maybe it'd be a good thing to get a car. You can travel further, you can travel faster. But that's different to saying you want to get rid of the ability to use bicycles. Actually, what you want is a world where you have different forms of transport. In a similar way, you want a world where you have different forms of payment. So sometimes in certain situations you can use cash, sometimes digital. But these guys are not calling for that. They're saying we want a world where there's only digital, or in the transport analogy, only cars. You're only allowed to use cars.
When he's traveling, Brett sometimes pays by card, but he mostly prefers to use cash. This machine does accept cash in theory, only right now it appears to be on strike.
They might force me to use my bank account. I got to swipe it instead. It's going to send a message to my bank in England and tell a bunch of stuff to them. They're going to alter all their databases before I can get this thing here. And they're going to log this as well. They'll be able to see this. So now there's this third party who's going to watch what I'm doing. But this machine's forcing me to do it. Finally, we got it.
Every time I think, oh no, who will my data be passed on to now? It depends on what website you were on. But often things happen very fast and you've no choice.
When I think about it, I pay more without cash than with. That's just the way things are moving somehow.
We live in Europe, where we have strict data protection laws. So I tend to just be trusting and take the easy way out.
There's also this aspect that everyone does it. You think it can't be that bad if it's so widespread. I think that's a key aspect.
It's an issue for two reasons. Firstly, because in many cases you have no choice, which takes some getting used to for people of my age. But secondly, it raises concern because we're losing an element of freedom here. We're allowing ourselves to be monitored.
At the university canteen, students have always paid for their meals in cash. First they purchase a voucher, then they collect their food. But here too, things are changing.
So you're paying cash?
Students can now pay with an app on their smartphone.
So you're paying with Blue Code? Okay. You still have to check their plates to make sure you've got it right. And what you need to charge for. Hello. One hot pot, okay. Blue Code? As long as they're ready, it's super fast.
So what do the students think?
It was super easy and it really saved time. But we were just saying we didn't notice how much it cost. The app doesn't show you that. The money's just deducted straight from your bank account. So I have to look at my bank app to double-check how much I just paid.
They might get rid of the person that sells the food vouchers. So there's a question of jobs. But okay, that's a separate issue.
There's a clear agenda going on here, and we mustn't be fooled by that. We're talking about a lot of money. Companies earn a lot from non-cash instruments like credit cards. People don't talk about that much. But they're happy to talk up the cost of cash. What they don't reveal is that non-cash payments also cost money.
Das wird dann eben gerne verschwiegen.
Credit card companies like Visa and MasterCard, as well as online payment services like PayPal and the German company PayDirect, earn their money by charging fees for each transaction. In Germany alone, there are over 20 billion payment transactions a year by credit card or online payment service. It's a global goldmine yielding over €1 trillion a year. In November 2016, India made a shock announcement. Overnight, the country's largest denomination bills ceased to be legal tender. Suddenly, around 85% of India's banknotes could no longer be used.
Corruption and the black market are the biggest challenges facing our country. Since coming to power, we've done a lot to combat that.
For days, there was chaos on the streets. Huge lines formed outside banks as panicked citizens sought to exchange their banknotes. What made it worse was that anyone wanting to change significant amounts was required to do so via a bank account, something that hundreds of millions of ordinary Indians didn't have. But the government initiative was certainly successful in one thing. It forced many Indians to start using a credit card and various payment apps. One common argument is that it's a good thing that millions of people in poorer countries now have bank accounts and access to credit and digital payment systems. That's certainly the opinion of Tidar Wald, head of an organization called the Better Than Cash Alliance.
We're promoting the shift from cash to digital payments because we believe there are benefits for development, for well-being, to improve people's life by moving from cash to digital payments. They have started a plan called Digital India, which means they're promoting the use of technology into government services. And all of those combined have created a great platform for government, local government, national government, for companies, and for individuals to start being more included in the economy. And being at the UN, we believe that we can be a neutral convener among governments, among companies, and among people to make sure that this shift is done in the best possible way.
The Better Than Cash Alliance does indeed operate under the umbrella of the United Nations and works closely with international organizations. Its members include companies like Visa and MasterCard, global corporations like H&M, Unilever and Gap. They're mainly interested in one thing: making a profit. The initiative is also supported by numerous governments and foundations, including that of Microsoft founder Bill Gates. The Better Than Cash Alliance wants to see people around the world living in cashless societies. Having the option to pay by card or mobile phone is a good thing. Brett Scott believes that too. But he has a bigger problem with movements like the Better Than Cash Alliance.
Of course, it's a good thing if you can have new options for payment and new ways to do things. So I have no problem with people getting digital payments methods when they've been forced to use cash before. But that's a very different thing to saying they shouldn't be allowed to use cash. All right. What I like is to have the option to use both of them. But actually, what a lot of these people like the Better Than Cash Alliance and so on, they're not arguing that they're not just saying that digital payments are a good thing. They're saying we should also get rid of cash.
Brett Scott says that would mean we would only have one form of money in the future.
The current system, essentially, you have two forms of money. One's the state money, which is cash. The other is bank money, which is private. All right, it's essentially commercial banks that issue private monies, as it were. We call it the same thing, but these are two forms of money.
So not all money is the same. On the one hand, there's cash in the form of bills and coins. These are guaranteed by the currency's central bank. But most money, more than 80%, only exists in digital form, as an electronic figure on our bank accounts. This money is created by banks during day-to-day transactions. In a world without cash, customers could no longer withdraw their money from the bank because it would only exist in electronic form. If the bank were to fail, customers could well lose their wealth.
The cashless society is essentially a euphemism for saying a commercial bank payments society, a private commercial bank payment society. That's what cashless society means.
So what do online payment services do with our data? To find out, the students take a look at the terms and conditions detailed on their websites. They begin with PayPal, the leading online payment system.
The terms and conditions are super long. You can't really just glance over them and get an overview. In fact, it's almost impossible to read through it all unless you want to spend 3 hours finding out where your data is going to be sent.
Yes, you get the impression that it's designed to make you click OK and carry on. Probably because there's information in there that isn't too good. The provider can use your personal data for other purposes. Then make no mistake, it will be used. And to stay with PayPal or online payment services, when you agree, you automatically agree to your data being used for advertising purposes as well. So it does get used for other purposes, not just the particular service that you use. Alongside providing a payments service, where many people say you don't earn that much as a company, there are other business models that focus on this data. It's not yet clear exactly which business models those are, but it's mainly services and marketing activities. And perhaps we can't even imagine yet all the different ways that you can make money with data.
I mean, these companies don't tell people how they use it. This is an open question. I mean, I guess we don't know how Facebook uses data or how Google uses data. There's all these internal, and there's also different laws in different countries about how financial data can be used. But certainly the question of when you combine different data sets together. So for example, Google and Apple are getting into the payments businesses or trying to get in there with, say, Apple Pay and stuff. And they already have all sorts of other data like location data, your search data. When you combine those data sets with payments data, you start to get this sort of three-dimensional picture of somebody.
If the data from our payment transactions can be used to create a perfect psychological and social profile of each one of us, what effect does that have? How does that influence our everyday lives and the way we live together in society?
You're going to have these systems where people are actually aware that they're being watched, so they start to change their behavior because they're concerned that their every small action has some implication. If you think about, 30 years ago, people didn't think that their every small action was going to be logged by some third party to be analyzed. Whereas now people are increasingly thinking, hey, if I do that, maybe it's going to impact my chances of something. So there's going to be all these like psychological effects of being, having all your small interactions watched.
China is almost there already. By 2020, the state aims to achieve near total surveillance with a nationwide network of cameras and facial recognition technology. Chinese internet companies like Alibaba and Tencent already analyze their customers' shopping habits and share the data with the state. Those who adhere to the government's way of thinking may get a better credit rating, for example, or a cheaper apartment. But those who don't cooperate get punished. The aim is for total state control.
We're seeing this issue within the broader frame of digital technology more generally, which is trying to monitor more and more things and bring more and more things that previously weren't monitored within the realm of formal monitoring. And of course, that's always framed as being, this is going to help, people to get more services and so on and so on. But of course, on the other hand, it's a new form of control.
If cash would go away, and we tend to think about cash as being the last line of defense, so to speak, that if you can pay in no other way, you can still pay in cash. But if cash is not there and we experience some kind of disturbance in the electronic payment systems, how do we pay then? How can we get food, fuel, and these kind of things that we need in our daily life?
Wenn man jetzt 10 Jahre oder 15 Jahre in die Zukunft
Give it 10 or 15 years, and I think we won't be able to use cash hardly at all anymore. Not if things continue on their current trajectory. I think we're heading towards a totally monitored society, where everyone will know that their lives are transparent and will act accordingly, and try not to draw too much attention to themselves.
The main problems of cashless society are, one, it creates a far more surveillance, so you create essentially a financial surveillance state. Two, it excludes a lot of people who can't get access to digital payment systems. Three, it opens you up to way more risks of cybersecurity, so massive cybersecurity risks. Four, it decreases the resilience of your payment systems. So, for example, cash has no central point of failure. You know, you can't bring it down, as it were. Whereas digital payment systems, you can turn them off, literally. And that point's important for stuff like, politically it's important because one of the implications of cashlessness is the increased ability to essentially turn off people that you don't want to do things. So it can be used for political repression as well.
I had a friend, Nick Rockefeller, okay, who was one of the Rockefeller family, and he, when I was running for governor in Nevada, he came to me, introduced himself to me through an attorney, and we became friends. We started talking about things, and I learned an awful lot from Mr. Rockefeller. And one of the things that we used to talk about was the ultimate plan of the banking industry, what they wanted to accomplish. And the goals of the banking industry, not just the Federal Reserve System, but the private banks in Germany and England, all over Italy, all over the world, they all work together. They're all central banks, and they're all part of the Communist Manifesto. You know, central banking is one of the major planks of the Communist Manifesto. We talk about America being a capitalistic country, but yet at the same time we have a central bank that plans everything for us, right? And the graduated income tax is another plank of the Communist Manifesto, right? So right there you have two major planks of the Communist Manifesto that have been brought in because of the Federal Reserve System, okay? So the ultimate goal that these people have in mind is the goal to create a one-world government run by the banking industry, run by the bankers, and they're doing it in sections. The European currency, the euro, and the European Constitution is one part of it. Now they're trying to do it in America with the North American Union, right? And they want to create a new currency called the Amero, right? And the whole agenda is to create a one-world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is given me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And so instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, they can take out whatever they want to take out whenever they want to. If they say you owe us this much money in taxes, they just deduct it out of your chip digitally.
Total control.
Total control. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip. And you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't do anything. It's total control of the people.
And that chip's connected to a database that has your purchasing records, what you do, what
everything.
You sell.
Everything is in there, you know? And so they want a one-world government controlled by them, everybody being chipped, all your money in those chips, and they control the chips, and they control people. And you become a slave. You become a serf to these people. That's their goal. That's their intentions.